Banana Slam Jam.
So hello, this is BSJ. This video is going to be on YouTube, as well as obviously streaming it live on Twitch for my loving fans and people who feel sorry enough to watch me. So, this is 7.25 gameplay update. I've already read through the patch, and I've had my immediate reactions, off stream and everything. But we're going to be going kind of into depth. At least I'm going to voice my thoughts on everything I see in this patch. Following this video, there's also going to be my prediction for the 5 most meta carries, the 5 most meta offlaners, and I'm also going to do probably something to do with items. So, and maybe the biggest changes. So, general changes. All pick hero picking has been reworked. It now has 5 rounds. Each round, Radiant and Dire pick 1 hero each at the same time, and the selections each team makes is hidden until the next round. If a duplicate pick occurs, the player who picked it second will be given some extra time to select another hero. So basically, a lot of the problem in pubs was second pick had a pretty massive advantage, at least at the highest tier, where counterpicking is even more prevalent because people are very aware of matchups, how to abuse them, and all that kind of shit. So what this does is that not only does it take away a lot of the power of 10th pick, but it makes it less about lane counterpicking and more about game counterpicking later on. So, meaning that almost every game, I would assume, a lot of mid lane players are going to save till last pick. And so, if I'm last pick, and I see that the opponent could pick Broodmother, then I can pick Kunkka without getting Huskard, Meaning that I see 4 of the opponent's heroes, and I see my 4 heroes, and I'm like, God, if they were to pick Broodmother against our heroes, and my hero doesn't deal with it, I'm going to get screwed. And in the past, you'd have to not only factor in them picking that perfect hero against your lineup, but you'd also have to factor in that whatever hero you picked 9th would just get fucked by something. So, you'd get screwed over by the Huskar in lane or something like that. So now it's more so about covering your bases with that, second, last pick or second to last pick, more so than worrying about getting absolutely cheesed. And I think that's overall really good. I think that this change is pretty huge. Definitely going to be in my top changes for the patch in terms of how it affects highest MMRs. I'm not 100% sure how it'll affect lower MMRs. But when it comes to you guys picking, just definitely all you have to think about is what's really good against your lineup and making sure your last pick is not also countered by that hero. And you're going to have to worry less so about getting cheese picked in your lane and stuff. So now, reworked how hero banning works in alt pick. Previously, half of the voted heroes would get banned. Now, each ban has a 50% chance of succeeding. If there are less than 10 heroes banned, heroes will automatically roll for banning based on their ban rate at your MMR bracket. So my question I wanted to ask chat is that I haven't been able to watch the very start of games. Does this mean that 5 heroes get banned every game, or that 10 heroes get banned every game? So there are 10 heroes banned in each game, is what somebody in my chat has told me. Okay, so I'm being told there are 10 heroes banned every single game. My next question is, if 5 people against Lukey nominate Pangolier, does Pangolier 100% get banned? Is it 31 out of 32 chances? Meaning that there's 5 coin flips and all of them have to miss for it to not get banned? How does this work? Does anybody actually know that? One hero can only be nominated by one guy. So you're telling me that once I nominate Pangolier, it's going to get banned 50% of games. Okay. So the goal is that every time you... Okay, so what ends up happening is no matter what, 5 heroes... Well, if all 10 were to vote, on average, 5 of them are going to get banned. Potentially 3 of them. It's all 50-50. It's not a matter of half the heroes getting banned. Each one's a coin flip. And then, on top of that, the remaining heroes left, meaning if 3 heroes are banned, 7 more will be banned. If 6 heroes are banned, 4 more will be banned. And it's based off of what's most commonly banned in your MMR bracket. And I think this is pretty reasonable. I think it does hurt hero spammers a lot. I think it also makes it so that you won't see a lot of the same heroes every game. It kind of feels like in the previous patch, you'd get 1 or 2 heroes of the meta banned every single game, maybe 1 or 2 heroes targeted at specific players. And then past that, you'd get you know, in my last 25 pubs, there's probably been 19 Snapfires. You know, it's just how it is. The hero is not really worth banning, but it's like so good that people just picked it every game. But now the most popular heroes that are getting nominated to get banned will get banned based on that. So I think that's kind of cool. They're not going to get banned every game, I assume. There has to be some formula where it's not just banning the top 5 heroes every game or something, because then those heroes will actually be banned every single game. But I do like the fact that it promotes more diversity in the hero pool, and also the overall works to the changing of pick order is more mimicking of how realistic it would be in like a competitive match. And while pubs I know are not competitive matches, I do think competitive matches are balanced, right? Like they are meant to be balanced in terms of the draft order and making it so both teams have a fair shot based on pick order and all that kind of stuff. And I think that this seeks to do that really well, and I look forward to seeing the impact of this. I really like this change. So Power Runes initially spawn at 4 minutes instead of 2 minutes. I think the main change for that is the RNG factor in the mid lane, and also it changes your mid lane build. You're not going to want to buy a bottle. You're not going to go first item bottle ever. You're not going to go like starting items and then save up for a bottle. You're probably going to have to time your bottle for like 3 minutes or later. Otherwise, you just have an empty bottle unless your support TP's in to fill it. So I think this is something that's also worth considering, but based on later changes with TPs, that might also be different. I'll probably be looking and seeing a lot of professional players TPing in to give their mid laner a bottle recharge anytime they die. Or it would help their mid laner. I think that's something we'll see a lot more. And yeah, I think it just changes the impact of bottle. So Power Runes no longer spawn on both sides of the map at 40 minutes. I think what they were aiming to do is they thought the Power Runes were too impactful on the results of the game, whether or not it was super RNG based in the first 2 minutes of the game, or super RNG based at the late game where a Storm has an Arcane Rune and a DD. So I'd say map control later on in the game is less impactful because the runes are only 1 instead of 2. And, you know, early game supports can more so stay in their lanes. Roaming is going to be a bit worse. A lot of times, you know, heroes like Shaker would spend a lot of the game level 1 or 2, and they'd be checking the runes and secure their mid laner. I think the power of that's going to go down from this, so something to keep in mind there. Remove the team-based rubber band mechanic for hero kills. So we're not going to bother looking at all this complicated shit and just look at what's new. So now it's purely 50 plus victim's net worth. So whoever dies, divided by 33 approximately. So if I have 10,000 net worth, they're going to get 350 kills divided by divided by 5, or divided by however many heroes there are. So later on in the game, more so kills will matter in terms of how much gold they give, but it seems like a pretty flat amount, like as the game goes on and the game progresses. Creeps go up in gold too, so it kind of just aligns with that. Hero kill sprees, though, this is the big one. Gold bounty is increased from a base of 60 to 480 to 690. If I'm correct here, you get what, like 700 gold for killing somebody if they're on a killing spree? Am I wrong here? Oh, the new base is 200. I misunderstood this. Okay, I see. So it's 200 base. I actually thought it was... Okay, I see. I thought it was 60 to 200 before and then 480 to 690. So it's 200 to... I see. I misread that earlier too. Okay, that makes sense. So it starts at 200. So if a normal hero kill is worth about 200, if you're on a killing spree, suddenly it's double. And then on top of this, the experience bonus is pretty nutty. So I'm assuming this is for Beyond Godlike and this is for kill spree. So the experience change isn't all that big. Meaning like, yeah, it's a bit more than it was before, but percentage-wise, a killing spree gives you 3 times as much gold to end. So this is, honestly, I think really good support players are going to almost try to secure never getting kills, like, if avoidable. I think the worst thing you can do now is have, like, a 5 position on a killing spree. That sounds garbage. Like, I don't think you ever want a 5 position to be on a killing spree. What if your 5 position with, like, 9th net worth has, like, a dominating streak at 8 minutes into the game in a tri-lane, and then just feeds to the mid laner casually because they're level 4 and the mid laner's level 7, and the mid laner just gets 400 bonus gold. Like, that sounds That sounds terrible. So, I really do think supports are going to aim to take as few kills as possible based on this change. Okay, so captains, and it's also like really important to notice whether or not somebody's on a killing spree. Before, to me, it was really of like a, oh, cool effect, you know, this person got kills. But now I think it's more so something really worth paying attention to. We're going to move this over here for now. I just realized, even though it's not blocking anything of value. Captain's mode now has bans. There's 4 bans in the first round. And I think the second round was kind of weird. And I really don't know how much to say about this. I don't know the exact impact it's going to have. Obviously, it's the same number of bans total. But 4 blind bans means that you're banning specifically against players or teams preemptively going into the game, rather than banning against what's already been seen in the draft. Like, you pick your... This limits the power of the third pick for second pick, which is the first pick of the second round. And it also limits the power of the second pick of the team with first pick. Meaning that you had the first pick would first pick, then second pick would pick 2 heroes, and then first pick would then have the next, like, that 1 pick, and they would block ban it with 2 heroes. So meaning, like, if you were first pick and you would second pick a Morphling, you could then protect the Morphling with 2 bans. So you could be like, you know, we've planned this. We can pick Morphling here, and as long as we ban AA Lion, we can pick Morphling second. But now that pick is much less powerful because you can only protect it with 1 ban as opposed to 2 bans. I tried to describe that as best as possible, but I think that's going to be the main impact of these changes, is the third pick for second pick is less powerful, and the second pick for first pick is less powerful. So I don't think it really favors one side or the other. I just think it changes the impact of certain picks being really strong. When did we get Red Bull? Sorry. Okay. Random draft hero pool reduced to 40. I don't really care about that. I think that's only in China they play random draft. Radiant Ancient Creeps are now easier to stack, thank God. Tier 1 neutral items are increased to 14%. I think this is a nice balance change in the sense that there's some lineups where you would get very few items, because this would... Before, it was really good for certain heroes that just, like, flash farm the jungle innately. And I think it hurt a lot of lineups where you had to pick at least one hero that would clear neutrals really fast. Innately. You know, like, super early on in the game. So I think this is a nerf to, like, heroes that did that. And it may seem like BSJ, but they're going to get more items. The point is that both teams need to clear less neutrals. Now you need to clear 28 neutrals on average to get 4 items instead of 40 neutrals. So by the 15-minute mark, more lineups are going to have cleared 28 neutrals than 40. Like, there's plenty of lineups that would be within that range somewhere, and now they're going to get all 4 items when they previously didn't. And then it kind of, but at the same time, it makes heroes that clear jungle really fast give all of their team 4 items really fast. So I guess there's kind of two sides to that, but I think it's more so a buff to lineups that don't clear creeps super early naturally. Fountain attack damage increased. Okay, neutral creep ice armor. They literally watched my pub yesterday where the Doom won them the game by getting an ice ogre level 1, ice ogering his mid laner, ice ogering his off laner, and ice ogering himself and walking at me. So they watched that pub. That was nice. Illusion Rune now has a similar cast mechanic as Manta. So if you bottle an Illusion Rune, you effectively have a Manta active, which is interesting. It buffs the rune. The rune was kind of meh on a lot of heroes. And this makes it so, like, an int mid laner isn't, like, too unhappy about getting an Illusion Rune. Like, if you're against Silencer and you get an Illusion Rune as a Queen of Pain, you're like, fuck yeah, I can dispel global with it. Okay. Let's see. Oh, and if you're, like, slowed and you're, like, running for the rune and it's an illusion, you're like, sick, and it's an Illusion Rune! And you just dispel. It's actually pretty funny. That's going to lead to some funny moments for sure. Shuffle means that previously, if you picked up an Illusion Rune, your hero would always be in the middle. And now, just like Manta, your hero will appear randomly among the 3 spots. Faded Brooch. Nerfed. Needed to be. I mean, not much, but it needed to be. Now it works on Ancients. That's pretty pog. 8 agility. Pog. Philosopher's Stone, buff. Buff Grove Bow, buff Nether Shawl. Buff Spider Legs is kind of surprising to me. This item was pretty good, I thought. All these, I thought this item was pretty good, too. I didn't think this was very good, or this, or this, or this. So, like, that makes sense. But I was kind of surprised about this one. I thought that was a decent item, and same with this one. This definitely needed a buff. I think this is amongst one of the worst items in the game, so maybe it'll eventually be good. I think conceptually it's just a weird item. That's actually a lot of regen on Repair Kit. 20 HP regen? What the fuck? Like, they're actually making Repair Kit less of a item you put on buildings and more of an item you just hold on to. That's pretty funny. I feel like they've buffed the regen on this like 5 patches in a row. It used to be like 8 or something, and now it's just 20. So Havoc Hammer. Area increased, and the slow is now also an attack speed slow. So it's a 50% attack speed slow for 3 seconds. I mean, for a tier 4, I think this item should honestly just have less strength, less damage, and be a tier 3. That's like my opinion on this item. Flicker, okay. Less range, but buffed. I think it's more about the dispel then. Remember, this does dispel you when it blinks you. Can't use it when you root, but when you're rooted, but like if you're orchided or diffuseled or slowed by something, you know, like that, it's really good. You can also dodge stuff like Atos, but yeah. Leveler, more attack speed. I don't mind the buff. Was a pretty not an underwhelming item in general. Minotaur Horn, same thing. Witless Shackle, kind of surprised that got buffed. I thought that was a pretty good item. Seer Stone, never even seen that item. Never seen any of these items. I have no idea how good or bad these items are. I've myself have never been in a game with tier 5 items, so. So this is a big change here. We have TP scrolls, so, or TPs. Let's say TP. So Valve realized that the world is on a shortage of TPs, so they decided to capitalize on supply and demand and make TPs cost almost twice as much. But all seriousness aside, or all seriousness back on side, all joking aside, this is kind of a big change. I think for a while, TPs were kind of just purchased willy-nilly. Kind of buffed Shovel, to be honest with you. Getting 2 TP scrolls is pretty dank from getting Shovel. Now, that's a lot of value. But also on top of this, like, it seems like people would just fly themselves 2 TPs no matter what. They just fly themselves 4 TPs, whatever. But now I really think you have to consider this cost. 90 is a lot. So TPing is not nearly as... It used to purely be about the cooldown of teleport scrolls, meaning that if you TP'd somewhere, you'd be stuck on that side of the map for 80 seconds, and that was your main consideration. But now, like, TPing for efficiency or TPing out of base or whatever has to have higher consideration because it costs, you know, more than 2 creeps worth of gold rather than barely more than 1 creep worth of gold, which is a big deal in the grand scheme of things. On top of that, though, Boots of Travel no longer has an active. It effectively becomes your old Boots of Travel, which makes it so as long as you have a Town Portal Scroll, which means you just need 1, it reduces the cooldown to 40 seconds, which is what Boots of Travel have always been, and allows it to target units, which means it can be a Boots of Travel. And the movement speed on them is buff. So what this effectively does is makes it so Boots of Travel, you can no longer TP back to base and then Boots of Travel out. Or you can't do that anymore. So Boots of Travel are much less about being efficient on the map with like Leshracs, Bat Riders, Pucks, you know, these types of int nukers that would use the Boots of Travel as a regen rune, basically. And they're more so about the fact that you're actually saving money on teleport scrolls. And I think the movement speed's rather negligible. It's effectively about 20 movement speed on Boots of Travel 1. I don't think realistically Boots of Travel 2 are ever happening, and it doesn't really matter about the 9% bonus between former Boots of Travel 2 and now. So what this means is that the changes of builds is going to matter a lot. If you see a hero with low mana and bots, that means they can't just go back to base and TP out. I think it it makes the map presence of these like wave clearing int heroes way less. They can't just go Boots of Travel anymore. It was really hard to play against if you were behind and the opponent puck just had Boots of Travel and could be anywhere. That was really hard to play against. I think it's like a slight buff to Tinker, but at the same time, I don't think Tinker's like affected by it. Like, he's not that much better because of it. I just think it's a nerf primarily to heroes that utilized the regen mechanic of Boots of Travel. So I'm kind of curious how this one is going to play out. But I think it does change a lot about how the map's going to work, especially at the highest level. What heroes are going to be having to be drafted in order to clear the dead lane and play away from the team. Heroes with innate mobility like Ember Spirit or Underlord are going to go up in value because of this kind of thing. But this is another one of those changes that's really hard to predict exactly how it's going to impact things. Javelin nerfed again. Mjolnir nerfed again. These items are just... I mean, Javelin hasn't been nerfed yet, but... Man, dude, this is, all the components of Maelstrom, Maelstrom itself, Mjolnir, Pangolier, no longer is going Javelin for sure. So many nerfs, man. I think this is just making it so efficiency items on carries are going up in value ridiculously. So on certain heroes that utilize like SNY or Manta to be efficient, like PLs, and other heroes that utilize Battle Fury to be efficient are just going to go up in value a lot. And heroes that previously would really rely on Javelin and Maelstrom are going to be hurting. So that's just a matter of what heroes benefit from this and that, and we'll go more over what I think the best heroes will be and such later on in the video. Or I'll be doing it in a separate video. Orb of Venom, huge nerf. This item was broken, picked... I saw it in, like, probably 70 to 80% of side laners would have an Orb of Venom as melee heroes. So what they effectively did was they made the damage go from 5 to 2, which is making it 6 over the course of 3 seconds instead of 15. They made the slow and slightly more, but the slow duration less. Oh my god! So I'm actually under the impression this is 4 damage, because the slow duration would probably be the same as the damage per second duration. It says lasts for 3 seconds. Are they damaged for 3 seconds? Let's find out. Does it really matter? Let's find out. But meaning, like, does that 2 damage actually matter? But, I mean, we should probably know the mechanic. So does it do 4 damage or 6? 1, 2, 3. So the slow duration is 2 seconds, but the damage is 3. That's kind of weird. Okay, it doesn't really matter all that much in terms of the damage, but it's worth noting. This item is trash. So my theory of crafting about it was there's a lot of heroes like Anti-Mage, Faceless Void would even consider it, Ricky, a lot of safe laners and off laners that would buy this item, and it was actually really important that it did 5 damage over time, because you're spending half of your starting gold on it, and you actually did a lot of damage chasing somebody down with Orb of Venom. But now I think it's only going to be good on heroes that have a lot of damage innately. But more so, from what I've even seen watching a few pups today, this was my initial prediction, is that this item will be bought later on in the laning stage. So it's going to be like, I saw Matu play Ursa today, and he went Treads Windlace, then Orb of Venom. It's like you're going to need a few levels, you're going to need a few items that actually allow you to hit for some damage, and then you can buy Orb of Venom, because it's much more about the slow now than it is about the damage that the Orb of Venom provides. So heroes that will utilize the Orb of Venom to roam or to be aggressive in the mid-game will still buy this item. But I think we're going to see far less Orb of Venoms purchased at the very start of the game, and it'll be on a few select heroes, but I think the usage of this item will be dynamic, like drastically different, and I'm very happy that they nerfed it. So yeah. Ring of Regen, reduced in cost, and Headdress no longer has all stats, no longer has a branch, so it effectively costs 75 gold less, and it gives more HP regen. So it's much more of an assist item rather than a core item. What this effectively means is before this patch, we saw headdress being purchased every single game. Half the time it was like in every side lane you saw a headdress. Half the time it was on a core, half the time it was on a support. I would say the majority of the time now it's going to be on supports rather than the cores, because instead of getting 3 all stats, you're getting half a regen, which, yeah, it's cheaper, but I think the 3 all stats mattered a lot for a decent amount of cores in terms of buying it super early. So I think this is going to be one of the hottest support items, and should keep in mind that if you're a support player, watch for higher level support players buying this item a lot. Sage's Mask got buffed itself. It got reduced in cost as well as the component itself. And then Ring of Basilius got, like, all the aura items got stats removed on them. So Ring of Basilius now gives more mana regen in an aura slightly. And then it's 75 gold cheaper, but it no longer gives 3 all stats. Same idea for Ring of Basilius, as I said for headdress. Buckler, I think, is also really strong now. Even more so than it was before. I think Buckler was much more about the armor than it was about the stats. So it costs 225 for the recipe. It costs, Ring of Protection is 150. Am I missing something? Or is that the entire cost of the item? Yeah, so the item actually dropped 125 gold in cost, and it costs 375, and it gives 2.5 armor to yourself and creeps. So if you remember, people used to buy Basilius as well as Ring of Aquila for pushing towers, and I think Buckler became more of a pseudo between, like, you know, kind of decent item between both, and now it's all about pushing the lane and giving your teammate and yourself that armor. So this can be used for heroes that want to pressure towers, and the fact that it's 375 gold instead of 500 is pretty crazy. All these order items are incredibly efficient in terms of their cost for what they provide if there's multiple heroes, or if you're trying to push the tower in the case of the Buckler, and I think we'll be seeing a lot of these items. So I'm not 100% sure how much I like this, but I think the fact that they're changing these items shows that they didn't really like how it was working, which I agree with, and I think these are some big changes that you guys should be paying attention to while you are playing your pubs and watching streamers and all that kind of stuff. Vladimir's Offering now effectively costs, so it's 125 less on the Buckler, and it's 75 less on the Basilius. So it's 200 gold less, and it's effectively about the same item, meaning it's 1 all stats less and 0.25 mana regen more. It got reduced on mana regen like 2 patches ago, so it's effectively like the same item with 1 less all stat. My opinion on this is that Vlad's was already a pretty good item. Obviously, the build-up's slightly worse for cores, but a lot of cores don't mind this too much, and I think this item's going to be way overbought, and I think they're going to eventually nerf it to have no all stats. Like, one day they're going to be like, okay, we're tired of this Vlad. It's going to do 4 all stats. Okay, 3. Okay, just 0. Fine, stop buying it. Like, that's what's going to happen with this item. So mark my words here. I'm pretty sure that's what's going to happen. Pretty good item, I believe. Veil of Discord. Okay. Doesn't really matter that much. Same item. Bloodthorn. Cool change here. We got a Hyperstone instead of a crit. And it gives a lot more attack speed. Only 45 more... Oh, attack damage, sorry. Less 45 attack damage less, which was from the Crystallis previously. And it gives 55 attack speed more from the Hyperstone. No longer has a passive crit, but it still has the active crit. This just changes what heroes are good with this. Like, OD, for instance, would probably consider buying this way more than he previously did. Now that it gives way more attack speed. There's just a lot of heroes that benefit more from attack speed than benefit from damage. So just look out for that. It's hard to go over these off the top of my head. But generally, if I see a hero and I think about it, I'll talk about it later on in the patch here. So now requires Broadsword and Mithril Hammer instead of Demon Edge and Recipe. So the Demon Edge was 2,200, Recipe was 300. That's 2,500 gold. Broadsword costs 1,000 now. Mithril Hammer costs 1,600. So that's 2,600 gold instead of 2,500. Perseverance got buffed to cost 50 less. So effectively, Battle Fury costs 50 more gold, but it has a much better build-up. Meaning it's much easier to get 1,000 gold for Broadsword and then 1,600 for Mithril rather than just saving directly for 2,200 gold. So Effectively a buff to Battle Fury. The item itself is still the same, like once you complete it. It's just a matter of the build-up being smoother. Similar to the old Battle Fury used to be Broadsword and Claymore, and now it's Broadsword and Mithril Hammer. So I like this. Another reason why Maelstrom is going down in value. Battle Fury keeps getting buffed. Very similar items. They're both farming items, efficiency items. So very worth noting that I think this might be the final straw for Maelstrom. I say that every patch, but, you know, people have still been kind of buying it. Crystallis. Destroyed. 200 more gold, 11 less damage, 30% more crit. Or 50% more chance to crit, effectively, meaning you'll crit 50% more of the time, going from 20 to 30. So, let's say, I don't really want to do the math here. I'd say the damage probably works out relatively the same, but now it costs 200 more. It's just a worse item. It used to be bought way too much, I think. Last patch, for the 2 patches, it was pretty broken. Effectively a 10% damage increase, or 10% cost increase. It's naturally better on heroes with bonus damage, innate, like Sven and stuff, but it's worse on any hero that doesn't have that. That's my judgment of this. Vanguard, 200 gold cheaper, but all the things it builds into are equivalently raised in price because of that. I think Vanguard was not very purchasable a lot of the time, and I think this 200 gold recipe was that replaced the old Stout Shield was super awkward, so I think this is a good change, and nice buff to the item. What does he mean by 50% increase? So what I mean is, previously, if I attack 10 times, I'm going to crit an average of twice, and now it's 3 times, which 3 is 50% more than 2. Like, 50% of 2 is 1, 2 plus 1 is 3, 50% more. Math. Okay. Eagle Song is reduced by 200 gold. So in return, Butterfly is slightly reduced on its agility. Okay, so you lose about 1 armor, 5 damage, and 5 attack speed. So I'd say this item's pretty much the same, but they've been nerfing this item slowly but surely, man. And stuff like Rapier and MKB and the way it works, I think Butterfly is becoming worse and worse. But it's still like the best luxury item for agility heroes. Like, it's the best overall survivability, damage, everything item when all you need is survivability, or like a little bit of survivability and damage. Okay. In return, though, Ethereal Blade has less damage from its primary attribute, and it's more base damage. So you lost 50% of your primary attribute. So as long as you have less than 100 of your primary attribute, Ethereal Blade got buffed. If you have more than 100, every point over... So if you go to 200, you would lose 100 damage but gain 50. So you'll lose a damage for every 2 primary stat you have over 100. So if you have 200 agility, you'll have 50 less damage than previous Ethereal Blade. So obviously we're targeting Morph here. That's what this targeted. Morphling buying E-Blade every single game. Slight nerf to him in terms of the damage of his combo. If you factor in magic resistance amp from Ethereal Blade, if Morphling has 200 agility, this is effectively 70 less damage on his combo. If you're any hero that has reasonable stat gains, you're probably about the same or slightly better, but they also buffed it so that it costs 200 less. So, overall, making Ethereal Blade much less of a niche item on Morphling and more of an all-around item, so I like it. I like these changes. They're good. I think that a lot of this patch I've liked because they've been addressing very specific issues with items or concepts of the game, and I think this one specifically was Morphling as a problem, and this is a good way to counteract that. Kaya Sange, so all they did was buff the Kaya components of these 2 items, Kaya Yasha and Kaya Sange, 2 items that ever since they made it so Bloodstone included a Kaya were pretty much unbuyable. So slightly less mana loss reduction and slightly more mana loss reduction and slightly more spell amp. Will this make them good? I'm not convinced, but maybe. Nullifier. Very different item. Big change. Whether or not it impacts the game a lot is to be determined, but we're going to talk about it so everyone understands. No longer mutes enemies, which means you couldn't use items. Now continuously dispels you, which means it's like Shadow Demon Ultimate, where for the duration of 5 seconds, you are continuously purged. So let's talk about this more after I'll read it all out and then talk about it. Slow reduced from 100% for 0.4 seconds to 80% to 0.5 seconds. That means every time you hit them, they are slow. That's how it worked before, and it's going to work that way now for a slightly longer duration, but less of a slow. Cooldown reduced from 13 to 11, so it's slightly better in that. And cast range drastically increased. It does have a projectile, but the cast range is drastically increased. And armor increased from +5 to +8, and the damage increased from +65 to +80. Those are pretty decent stats, by the way. 8 armor and 80 damage on a 4,700 gold item. Like, those are pretty decent stats. I want to say that first and foremost. So I'm going to read this next change on the items just to be very clear to you guys what Nullifier effectively has become. No longer undispellable Force Staff. No longer undispellable Hurricane Pike. So what that meant was when you were in the active of getting Force Staffed, you would have a buff on you that is saying you're getting Force Staffed, which is moving you. So now, since Nullifier continuously dispels, and previously, if I'm a Ricky and I have Cloud, Diffusal, Nullifier, the way my Nullifier would be countered was an ally on the opponent team Force Staffing them. Like, that's how it got countered. Not by the guy I go on having a BKB. But now, that's not the case. The guy that I go on, if he has a BKB or a Manta, he's just going to dispel my Nullifier. But if they get Force Staffed, it just does nothing. It literally does nothing for the guy to get Force Staffed. And if they Yules themselves, it also purges you. So Nullifier is way better against Eon Disc because it continuously dispels. Actually, no, you can't use it before the Eon Disc. So it's still the same against Eon Disc because you have to use it after the Eon Disc procs. It's still the same thing there. But it's way better against Force Staves and Yule Scepters and Glimmers because Glimmer, Hurricane Pike, and Force Staff are all dispellable and would be saved by the ally using those items on them. But it's way worse against Mantas, BKBs, and yeah, Mantas and BKBs. It's way worse against. So it's just a very different item. I think it's very interesting. I think it was kind of fucked that you could be like a Gyro with a BKB and just get nullified and die. I thought that was like kind of messed up. But it also counters like Satanic and stuff, right? Like Satanic active is also purgeable. So even though the guy can use his Satanic, it doesn't do anything. So this, I also have to include that. So this effectively counters these 3 items. Satanic. Let's go to the rest of the item list so I don't forget anything. Crimson Guard it's good against. Solar Crest it's good against. It purges that. It doesn't purge Lotus. You can't purge the active of Lotus. It purges Mjolnir. Purges Mask of Madness. Medallion. Yeah, that's about it. So, most notably, you just have to think that this is way worse against Manta BKB, but way better for allies saving them and Satanics man up on you kind of situations, where the guy gets glimmered and saved, or he gets Force Staffed and saved, or he pops his Satanic and mans up on you. It's the same against Satanic. It's way better against Yules, Force Staff, and Glimmer. I'd say it's the same against Yules and Satanic, meaning if they use those 2 items, it does nothing. And it's way better against ally Force Staves and Glimmer Capes. So very different item here. Very different item in terms of what it's good against and what it's bad against. That's all this effectively did. And they buffed the stats of the item. They made it have lower cooldown, more cast range, more armor, more damage. And it just doesn't counter Manta BKB heroes, but it counters everyone else. So I think it's actually effectively a more usable item but for different purposes. So I think it's more considerable as like a mid-game item on heroes like TA and stuff, where people don't want to go BKBs yet, and they just die to you because they're nullified. And they can't get force stabbed or glimmered or anything. So definitely worth considering there. Yule's dispels it, though. Interesting. I actually didn't think about that. Maybe Yule's does immediately dispel it. I actually don't know how that works. I didn't think about that. With Shadow Demon ulti not being purgeable, that's what I initially thought, but let's actually find out. I may be wrong then. It may be worse against self-Yulesing. Oh, Yule's does counter it. So, okay, my bad. So, this item is countered by Yule's. Ignore everything I just said. This is a purge patch analysis where I spend 20 minutes talking and then you guys bring one thing to my attention and I realize everything I just talked about was worthless. Not worthless. Yule's is now better against this item, for sure. The point is, I think about this item, is that they can't get saved by allies. The guy you go on having items to protect himself is way more survivable, while the guy getting saved by his opponents is by his allies is way less survivable. So Nullifier is countered by the guy you wanting to kill buying defensive items rather than his allies saving him. So this is like a really important... That's the overall change I'm going to say about it. Lotus does not get purged. I am 100% sure you cannot purge Lotus buff. I'm actually 100% sure about that. Glimmer Cape, Force Staff, and Hurricane Pike reduced cast range on allies. So they're just making it less impactful to save your teammates. They realize that everyone in the Dota scene is a selfish piece of shit, and that they don't even want to give you the temptation to save your teammates. No, I'm kidding. I mean, it is effectively what they're doing, but, you know, is that what they're actually saying? Probably not. To be clear, though, cast range is a big deal. I think of cast range as it's a radius around me for which I can save people or use an item or whatever. So if the radius is 550 instead of 800, you have to square that. So it's effectively 5.5 squared, which is about 30, and 8 squared, which is 64. So the radius for which you can be positioned to save somebody with these items is less than half of what it used to be. So it's pretty drastic of a nerf to these to these items in general, to be used as a save for your allies. Observer Ward, reduced vision. Okay. Observer wards are pretty good, so that's an interesting change that I liked. Holy Locket, 300 gold cheaper pog. Maybe a purchasable item, honestly. Maybe. 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 That's about all I got there, guys. That's all I got. Necronomicon is now not a gold feeding machine at level 1. This makes level 1 Necro pretty value for just shoving lanes, and who cares if you fucking feed it. It's 100 gold, 100 XP instead of 200 gold, 200 XP at level 1 Necro. The cost reduction is like kind of whatever, but what if you just feed Necros now? Like, what if Arc Warden can realistically go Necro Book because he isn't feeding a bajillion gold anymore? You know, people were already experimenting with like Spectre. Heroes that just use it to clear waves and get some farm, and previously you'd feel bad about handing the opponent 200 XP and 200 gold. But now you don't, so I think this item's going to see a lot more play. Based on the fact that Sage's Mask also got reduced in cost, so now level 1 Necro Book is 100 gold less. The Sage's Mask itself got buffed, so the build-up is better. And yeah, there's just a lot of small changes that have been tweaking this item, and I think we're going to see a lot of casual Necronomicons, more so than we saw prior. So look out for that. Eon Disc, 105 cooldown. Okay. Silver Edge now reduces regen and heals by 50%. I think this is primarily targeting Timbersaw, to be honest with you. Yeah, they're buffing Silver Edge, but Timbersaw is very meta right now. And Silver Edge really wasn't that great against Timbersaw because it only made it so he didn't get more stacks of his passive rather than removing current stacks. But now you effectively remove the stacks from Timbersaw because he's for the duration of this debuff. So what I want to confirm is that this is not dispellable. The regen part of it. Yeah, so you cannot save yourself with this shit. Like, you can't Lotus yourself. You can't BKB yourself. You can only, like, Yules yourself to buy time. Okay. So, effectively, this is like a pseudo-Spirit Vessel against Timbersaw. It gives you other options. Timbersaw, Huskar are the most notable ones. I believe Lifesteal is treated as heal, correct? So it's really good against, like, Troll Warlords with Satanic. All that kind of stuff. I think this really makes the mid to late game of Silver Edge way better for mana battles. As well as committing onto a hero and just killing them. So, I think this item has been receiving way too many buffs. It's actually had so many stat buffs on it. In terms of, like, how much attack speed, how much damage. I believe the cooldown was buffed or something like that. Like, there's been a lot of little buffs to this item over time, and I think it's actually purchasable on heroes like Shadow Fiend, potentially Slarks, potentially even, like, Juggernauts, like, 4th item on anti-mages, like, you know, like, I'm not saying it's a core item on these heroes, but, like, 4th, 5th item, I think this Silver Edge could be a very popular item now. It's so efficient, like, compared to Butterfly, instead of evasion, you know, you're still getting the 30 attack speed. You're getting, like, you know, you're getting 60 damage, 30, you're getting 45 attack speed, 60 damage, 300 health, instead of, you know, 60 attack speed, 60 damage, and evasion. So instead, you're getting the active of Silver Edge. So it's like, it's a pretty comparable item in terms of, like, Butterfly to damage. And you're getting the active of being invisible, as well as the health, as well as the break mechanic. So definitely worth considering there. Very, very scary 4th, 5th item, I think, on a lot of heroes. I think this alone wouldn't be enough to convince me, but the fact that it's been buffed so many times before this, and now Silver Edge is very good against a lot of heroes that utilize heals, and you just have to hit them with it, I think this is really cool. Clarity is now a 30-second duration instead of 50, and it's way more mana regen per second. So instead of being 225 mana over a long period of time, it's 180 mana over a much shorter time. The point is, it's much more efficient than it's less reliant on being broken than it was before. Meaning, like, before, you would get a lot out of clarity if you're just farming with it. But now in the laning stage and such, clarities go up in value because they are used up much quicker. So it's just a different change to the item. I think overall it's a buff, even though you do get less mana total. Infused Raindrops. Mana regen increased. I think this item was already pretty decent, so definitely look to buy these. There's a lot of mana buffs this patch, making it easier to keep your mana pool and be efficient that way. So I kind of like that this patch, turning into League of Legends where you can just cast your abilities off cooldown. Bottle, because of the rune changes, I believe, got reduced in cost. The no more power runes at 2 minutes. What I mean by the rune changes. Medallion of Courage as well as Solar Crest got more mana regen. Ring of Health and Voidstone got reduced in cost. That's affecting Battle Fury as well as Lincoln's by 50 gold. And I guess Refresher by 100 gold. Hood of Defiance, slightly buffed. Pipe of Insight, buffed in terms of health, but they removed all the all stats because Headdress lost its all stats. Lotus Orb is now nerfed on, like, strength heroes. Previously, Lotus Orb could kind of just be used as a mana item for strength heroes. This kind of reminds me of the Scythe nerf, like last year, where the item was being bought on a lot of heroes and was effectively giving them mana as well. But now, like, what happened to Scythe was the mana cost was so much that it kind of counteracted how much mana you were getting from the item. So it was more so about heroes that could also support the mana cost. This is a nerf to, like, Mars and shit, and, like, Timbers and shit that have, like, mana problems, and, like, previously could go, like, second item Lotus Orb. And, use it as a mana as well as defensive tool. I think, in general, like, Lotus, Glimmer, Force Staff were just too good. I think these items were purchased a lot. Like, saving your teammates was just too easy. And they're attempting to counter that, but leaving the items viable, just not all the time. So I do like this change a lot. Helm of the Iron Will buffed a bit in terms of health regen, but yeah, whatever. It doesn't really matter. Ring of Tarrasque is actually buffed in terms of health regen and reduced in cost. This is quite the value item, honestly. If you're a hero that's eventually going to buy a heart, what items is this built into? Holy Locket too? I mean, Holy Locket went down in 400 in price. I didn't even realize this. 400 reduction in price? Dude, is Holy Locket actually an item, dude? 400 gold off of 2850 is a lot. That's like 15% reduction in cost. That's a lot of gold, man. That's 30 seconds of farm. That's 30 to 45 seconds of farm, depending on how, like, what role you are. That's crazy. That's 2 creep waves that you've taken off of Holy Locket, and you've even made the component better. I think PL could, like, arguably buy this item in, like, as, like, a, you know, people were going headdress and shit. Why not just go, you know, double Wraithband Ring of Tarrasque? Like, that's so much value. You get more health regen for less cost. It's worth considering at the very least. I'm not 100% sure if it will be good, but it's worth considering. Tranquil Boots, 14 regen instead of 16, whatever. Okay, now on to hero changes. Abaddon, whatever. Alchemist, whatever. Base movement speed on Arc Warden, whatever. I mean, all these things are small buffs, but whatever. Batrider, slight nerfs again, whatever. Kind of the same heroes, just slightly worse and slightly better. Beastmaster is an interesting one. So I was trying out Beastmaster prior to this patch because I saw him picked a lot at the summit. And what I honestly watched and what I felt when playing him was that his boards were fucking dog shit. They just died level 1, and you fed 60 gold and 60 XP, and it was pretty much unavoidable. And the only way to avoid it was to, like, never use your boar for other than, like, hitting a hero 4 times for 15 damage a hit. And for me, that's like, well, that's complete dog. Like, this hero in the laning stage sucks. And then I watched everyone I watched lose their lane. And so now they've given him his aura, his own aura, effectively level 1, meaning his aura gives him 10 attack speed at level 1. So they've given him a level 1 aura, himself, obviously. And they've buffed, in my opinion, wild axes to magical over physical. So what this means is that against creeps in lane, it's... Wait, so I want to see. This is something I was curious about. So first and foremost, Beastmaster is purely a physical damage hero when it comes to his aura that he provides for his teammates, and also the items he builds, like Necronomicon, even just like Vlad's Medallion, all those kind of things. And I know his roar is magical, but this makes him much more of like a composite damage hero, like mixed damage. So what I was curious about is, I don't have to be Beastmaster for this, but at what armor do I have 25% physical resistance? Not 3. 4.8 is not enough. So at approximately 6 armor, I have the same magic resistance as physical resistance. So underneath 6 armor, this is less damage. But over 6 armor, it's more damage. But also melee creeps have 2 armor. You know, and I'm gonna test. I wanted to test this hero before I try it out. So what I'm getting at is I think it's possibly viable to go like 404 on Beastmaster. Oops. How much do I hit for? 87? 84? 94? That's pretty nutty. Okay. Wait, so what if I have a Basilius? I'm acting like my support bought a Basilius. This is a hero I really wanted to try. I want to see. Your master, Beastmaster on the trail. So I just do this shit to start the wave. It's like purely want to just like shove the wave. Yeah, so by like the third creep wave, I'm out of mana. I hit for a fucking 100 damage on that range creep, dude. So say I bought like double mango at this point. Holy shit, that's like full mana because I have no stats. Okay. Yeah, that actually did a lot of damage. 180 magical damage? 180, huh? It is deceiving because the numbers are different because it's amped. And it like amps before it hits. So that did 180 damage. Because the first axe hits for 60 plus 8% amped, which would be 65. And then the second axe hits for 60 with 16% amp, which would be like 70. So it's 135. Where's the damage coming from? Oh, I guess it's 135. Okay, nice. Okay, I calculated that perfectly, actually. I guess a few creeps that hit that other creep. The most notable part is your hero also hits for more against these creeps. So like 106 damage on range suddenly when I have 74 damage. And also if I'm hitting heroes, I do more damage. So I think like this is going to be like the build on Beastmaster. Like this fucking shit. Like where you go like Ring of Protection, your ally has a Basilius, and you have 2 fucking Sage's Masks. Because you go Necro first item. Maybe even Soul Ring. What if I just get a Soul Ring? What if my ally goes fucking Headdress and I can do this with Soul Ring? Maybe I could go this myself. I'm just theory crafting because Beastmaster, to me, the board build sucks. And I think that the changes to axes makes him better for CSing. And it'll be better mid-game, where the opponent carries have like 8 or 9 armor. It's actually more damage. And it's just interesting to me. I know I theory crafted a lot there, but I think it's worth checking out, and I'm going to be trying it. It's one of the heroes I really want to try. Because the debuff duration lasts 12 instead of 8, the time you have between the cooldown coming off, or 12 instead of 10, the cooldown is 8. So the time between axes, you have twice as long to apply the debuff again, which is like very relevant. Yeah, it no longer pierces spell immunity, but prior, to be honest with you, you didn't level axes until 10, so like that just didn't really make sense that it did, like now what this tells me is it's used as a laning stage ability rather than a like what if you just go like Necrobook Ags, dude? That'd be fucking sick. I want to try this hero with the Wild Axes build. Blood Rage. Heal nerfed at lower levels again, drastically for level 1. I mean, at this point, you're not even skilling this ability in lane. I mean, I wasn't skilling it until level 4, but like I don't even know if you skill to level 4 now. That shit's trash. Bounty Hunter, very interesting here. It makes it so his Janata is applied to Shuriken Toss, which also increases the cast range. So what this assumes to me is that it'll give his Shuriken an extra 170 damage, and it'll steal gold. It'll yoink them. Unless it's just the steal part. Let me see. Time to collect my bounty. It doesn't do the crit, it just steals.
Scepter. Prepare for battle. My blades will do the talking. This way. Watch your head.
Oh, I can't see that I stole their gold.
Positioning.
I assume I steal their gold. Oh. Yeah. Oh, okay. I just didn't have it leveled. I see. So, I do steal I didn't actually notice if it did more damage. Okay, so it does not do more damage. It just steals their gold. Which... that's a lot of gold to steal. Honestly. So, it clearly wouldn't help support bounty hunters. So, whether or not core bounty hunter is a thing is the question here. And they also made a Shuriken Toss a level 15 talent instead of a level 20 talent. And what if you take the Shuriken Toss damage and 90 Janata Gold Steal? I feel like that might actually be good. And you also don't have to walk like point blank range to fucking Shuriken Toss people. So you can actually use it. And you're just yoinking people for like 120 gold. Maybe even getting 2 or 3 people. Realistically when they're pushing and shit. And it's hits for... isn't Shuriken a lot of damage? It'd be 450 damage. It's not negligible. I kind of want to try this hero too. My only concern is his laning stage. But what if you just go like... what if you just go like phase, you know, some regen item, which I'll have to figure out. Maybe like an urn or something. Phase urn Ags. Phase urn Windlay's Ags, something like that. As a 3. I don't think he'd be a carry. I don't think this is good as a carry. I think he'd be a 3 or maybe a 2, but probably a 3. My only concern is his landing stage. Definitely worth trying him out though. Waga stole 13,600 gold in his last game. So my comment to that would be Waga plays like a lot of party queue and unranked. So my comment is that I think this build could be really fun for anyone, for the 99% of the Dota community, but I'm also reflecting on it as actually viable at like the top 100 level. And also in competitive Dota, that's usually the approach that I give. But in terms of people watching, I think this could be really fun and you should definitely try it. So I'll try to be more appealing to the average mass here. Brewmaster, Primal Split, whatever. These changes, you can read them if you want. I think they're rather unimpactful. Broodmother, whatever. Chaos Knight, slightly lower cooldown, or not slightly, pretty drastically lower cooldown at level 20, or at level 18, which is nice. Cast range on Reality Rift increased. Hero still seems pretty dog to me, but if this increases his laning stage prowess a lot, then he might be decent, but I don't think it really does. My initial impression of CK is he's still trash, but I may be wrong. This is cool. Death Pact no longer has a neutral level requirement. At the highest level, people will start blocking camps. But it does make Clinkz harder to play against in terms of he can eat big creeps now just for efficiency. It obviously doesn't change anything about the ability, but except for he gains more golden XP from eating creeps. I think it stands out more to me as a mid laner. Maybe a position 4. Maybe a position 4. The fact that you can kind of be like a long cooldown Marana, but more so the fact that you're like getting the creep and then coming to lane with that big creep worth of XP and gold. Meaning you're laning with your fiery arrows until level 2, and then once you get level 2, you go eat a creep. But I feel like good players will just block the big camp. So I don't know 100% how much this impacts. Clinkz seems still pretty mediocre to me, but we'll kind of just have to see. Crystal Maiden. Scepter Frostbite timer reduced to 2, whatever. Darkseer. So what this does is that flat movement speed synergizes way better with percentage-based movement speed. So I was theory crafting this with Ricky earlier. If you have Bloodseeker, for instance, and his thirst is giving him 100% bonus movement speed, he's a 300%. He's a 300 base movement speed hero. So if I have 300 base movement speed with boots for 15% movement speed, and I'm getting surged for 70%, and I also have 100% from thirst, that adds up to 185% bonus movement speed from my 300 that I started with. So I have 185% bonus movement speed. 185% of 300 is like 540. So I have 840 movement speed. Okay? Now, if I'm a Bloodseeker with Thirst, giving me 100% movement speed, and Boots giving me 15% movement speed, and I'm getting surged for 250 speed, that means my base movement speed is effectively 550, buffed up by 115%, which turns into like 1200. So what I'm emphasizing as a very extreme case is Surge is far better with percent-based movement speed buffs now than it was previously. So Spearbreaker comes to mind. Even like Bounty Hunter with Track or something. You know, anything that buffs movement speed by a percentage is way better with Surge. This buffs Boots on Darkseer. This buffs, you know, anything that's based on percent movement speed. That's the emphasis I'm giving. Ion Shell Radius. I mean, Razor's a ranged hero. Like, so what? Okay, so Ion Shell Radius is interesting. That's kind of cool. I actually didn't read this earlier. I don't think 90 damage really did anything to Darkseer other than like occasionally hitting towers. So yeah, I think this is a nice buff. I'd have to see how it looks. Dazzle's a really cool rework. I want to try out this Scepter if I ever get the chance. Seems really good on either 3 or 4 Dazzle, or 3 or 2 Dazzle, excuse me. Even more so 2 Dazzle. So the first thing that comes to mind is, so what it is they reworked it. So when you cast an ability, you automatically launch an attack on 8 enemy units up to 800 units away. So my first question that I had is this the broken... Is this the broken Night Stalker version, or is this the pleb new Night Stalker version? BSJ, what do you mean? You shall see, sir. You shall see. Okay, so my answer is that I do need to have vision of the opponent. And it doesn't shoot towers? Okay. Oh, wait, is it buff my ultimate? Oh, I see. So I actually need to have my ult. I didn't realize it was linked to his ult. Okay. So you do have to have vision of the target. But let's say you have... Say you're a core Dazzle. With Phase, Ags... and a... Oh, you have level 10 at that point, too. Which is your damage talent. I missed? Okay, that's reported. What I'm basically saying is you clear an entire wave with a heal bomb, and that's it. I'm going to see one more time. You need to heal bomb your creeps, obviously. But it also refreshes your poison sting. So, like, I can be chasing somebody and use heal on myself or grave or some shit, and it'll reapply my poison sting. My poison touch, excuse me. So that's what stands out to me about this. I'm not 100% sure how good or bad it is. See, like, that's what I mean by it just instantly clears the creeps, which is pretty pog. It's an efficiency item for a core. And if you're chasing somebody down, it's, like, really nice for your abilities. Obviously, it works with Deso. Like, all of your attacks are individual attacks, so you can have Deso. I don't think Maelstrom's good because of the internal cooldown. I think you're never going Deso. I think Value Blightstone could be really powerful. Like, Orb of Destruction would be insane, right? Like, Dragon Scale would probably be insane. I'd say, I mean, even Vampire Fangs, you're just fucking life stealing off of 8 attack, or yeah, 8 attacks, up to 8 attacks. Scotty's really bad on ranged heroes. I think overall, let's not meme too hard. The fact that it lets you refresh Poison Touch, or Poison Sting, Poison Touch, and then it also clears waves instantly with your Heal Bomb, I think is really nice, potentially. So that's the value I see of the item. Whether or not it's good or bad is really hard to say now, but definitely worth looking at. Exorcism now provides a 20% movement speed increase. Okay. Very good. Very good for a DP. She's effectively 60 movement speed faster when she's in her ult. That's a lot. Dragon Knight. Base movement speed increased by 5. This guy's becoming a race car slowly but surely. Drow Ranger. Okay. Okay. That's actually kind of cool. Jerax, they're really telling Jerax to come back. Ever since Jerax announced retirement, they've given Earth Spirit his only buffs in like the last 5 years. Okay. Is Earth Spirit core viable? Gives him an extra attack speed every level, an extra armor every 7 levels. Extra 15 damage. That's a lot of fucking damage, man. I don't know. Like, this is pretty big for, like, a core strength hero. I don't know. A lot of buffs, though. A lot of little things on this hero. Elder Titan. Okay, whatever. Pretty massive buffs for Ember Spirit. A lot of people were basically skipping Searing Chains. And I think that was one of the main weaknesses of the hero. It wasn't really viable to put like a value point in Searing Chains. But now they made it cost 80 mana at level 1 instead of 110, so I think you're pretty much leaving this as a 1-point wonder all the time. And the mana and the cooldown at lower levels drastically increased, so or drastically decreased. So the value point in Searing Chains is way better. I think the ideal skill build on this hero was 144 anyways, and you even tried to go 044. But now going like, 1-point Searing Chains at some point is really valuable. And they also made his level 10 talent even better for Flame Guard Absorption. I've seen some people take that, so I don't know. I think this is a lot of buffs for this hero. I don't know if he really needed it. I saw him get picked in competitive a decent amount. Enchantress, whatever. Enigma, very big-brained. Ooh, double damage at level 1, pretty much the main thing about this. Later on in the game, you're not black-holing people for damage, but early kills, I think this could matter. What's the duration on this? 4? Yeah, so you're doing 400 damage in a black hole instead of 200, and it's pure. That actually adds up a lot. I think you just kind of kill anybody if you full duration black hole them in the early game. Like, any carry or whatever that gets solo black holed by you is going to die. I didn't even look at this change. This could be pretty big for Enigma. You're almost guaranteed a kill if anybody's by themselves in the first 10 minutes of the game. The kill threat alone from this hero is way larger. Maybe he's good. Level 15 in talent from 40 Maleficus instant damage to 100. What the hell? Okay, so how much damage does Maleficus do now? That's a lot of fucking damage. So it goes from 105 to 205, which does 600 damage if not dispelled. Is that better than cooldown reduction, though? That's a lot of damage, man. That might be better, man. That's a lot of damage. 600 damage on a 50... Maybe not, though. It maybe just be too... Damage. Yeah, I like that. CDR does seem too strong. It's hard to validate that, but that's a lot of damage. Grimstroke. Phantom Embrace. Rend damage at lower levels drastically increased. At higher levels, whatever. Slight talent buffs. Quality of life, good for him. Gyrocopter. So what backswing is every time you finish a spell or an attack, every hero has a set backswing, which means that after you complete the attack or spell, your hero will AFK backswinging until, like, for the remaining amount of time. Every skill, every attack on every hero has a different timing. It's really a quality of life thing because you can cancel backswings. I've used Skywrath as a perfect example. If you want to know what I'm talking about, just shift Q your abilities with Skywrath Mage and see what I'm talking about. So what this effectively does, it's a nice quality of life buff for Gyrocopter, but it doesn't really change all that much if you know how to manipulate backswings and stuff. But it's a nice quality of life change. It's getting a little hot in here, so I'm going to open the door and window. But most notably for Gyrocopter, the big one, is Flat Cannon has lost an attack at every level, but its cooldown has been cut in half and its duration cut in 3 2/3. The point is, you can use this ability twice as often with one less attack. So I'm pretty sure Gyrocopter is broken once again. That is my instant impression. No longer have to build an Ags for farm. You can just spam Flat Cannon off cooldown. Every creep wave has a 30-second respawn timer. When you have a 40-second cooldown ability, you can't clear every creep wave with it. You have a 20-second cooldown ability, you can clear every creep wave with it. So, yeah. Massive. Massive buff to Gyrocopter. This is like game-breaking buff to Gyrocopter. In my opinion. I think this hero is S tier. And I'd be shocked if this does not get nerfed. And they also gave his level... or no, they didn't give him a talent, right? No, they didn't. Okay. It was Ursa that got the talent. Call down missile damage buffed as well. Oh, but call down cooldown increased to 90. I didn't notice this. Oh, wow. Maybe he's not S tier, but he is... I would say overall he got buffed. But he's more of a hard carry now than he was before. Right? And then his level 20 talent is way better than it was before as well. Meaning, like, before you would have a lower cooldown after you got the talent, but the cooldown on the talent wasn't really necessary because you had a 45-second cooldown anyway. Okay, this hero's definitely better. I did not notice this change. So he's been reworked a bit. He's definitely way better in my opinion. I would say he's worth giving a shot because he might just be broken. I think he's going to farm really fast. And I think with the nerf to, like, Maelstrom and stuff, heroes with innate farming mechanics are going to go up in value. And Gyrocopter is going to be one of those. I think this hero is really good. We'll see. Huskar. Slight nerf, whatever. Screw this hero. Juggernaut. His new scepter grants him a swift slash, which performs a mini omni slash on a 15-second cooldown, 650 range, same as Abyssal, and lasts for 0.8 seconds. So what I notice about this is that if you have no items, it does virtually nothing, and if you have a lot of damage items, it could be really scary. First and foremost, as long as you're not silenced, it's a dispel. It serves the same as omni slash. When you use omni slash, you dispel yourself. So if you're slowed, if you're rooted, if you're disarmed, you dispel. So that's pretty interesting. You can't get countered by Halberd, you can't get countered by Roots, you can't get countered by really anything, because it's a 15-second cooldown. So I'd say as a 4th, 5th item, this is pretty scary on Jug. I don't think you can really rush it, but 4th, 5th item, this could be scary. Very scary. It's an Abyssal that purges yourself. That doesn't stun, but purges yourself. Very interesting. I definitely don't think you'll want to buy it before, like, 4th item. I think you need some damage items to validate this being good. The Keeper of the Light. I think the survivability mechanic of this ability is pretty insane, though. Like, on top of the fact that you're gap closing, even just using it to reset a fight as Jug would be pretty nutty to me. Like, if you're just surrounded by 4 heroes and you just swift slash one of them and just reset the fight. You know, you swift slash and spin. You know, or like you're getting gone on, you just manta, swift slash, spin. You know, like how do you kill that actually? What kills a Juggernaut with manta, swift slash, spin? Like how do you actually kill that guy? I actually don't like, meaning how can you start the fight on that guy? I actually don't know. That sounds pretty nutty. Like late game. Keeper of the Light. Nice buffs to his talents. Okay. I think this hero might be pickable again because of this. Kunkka. Whatever. Legion Commander. Damn, this talent used to be 50, man. This is buffed a lot. I'm going to start considering this talent. That's a lot of damage. If you hit like 3 heroes, that is a lot of damage. Leshrac. Nice. Agility gain, attack backswing, same as Gyrocopter. But most notably, because of the Boots of Travel nerf, I think Leshrac is going to have some serious build issues. He pretty much has to go Bloodstone. Boots of Travel kind of replaced Bloodstone as a concept. So, like, you have to go Bloodstone, right? You, like, have to. You can't go this, like, Boots of Travel Yule's crap anymore because of the Boots of Travel rework. And you can just call it a nerf on Boots of Travel. I think the only way this hero can be played is pretty much going like Yule's Bloodstone or like straight Bloodstone. I think that's the only way this hero can be played. Whether or not that's good or not is the question. Lina. Attack point reduced. Attack backswing reduced. So just quality of life changes for a lot of these heroes with awkward backswings or attack animations. Like Drow, Lina, Gyro, Lesh. Lone Druid. Spirit Bear movement speed. The attack range was pretty stupid now because you pretty much always rely on bear damage after the Spirit Link change. So this is just a nice change. Like, the attack range just didn't do anything anymore. Like, range Lone Druid is not a thing anymore. So I don't know if this is better than 250 health. Dude, that's so annoying. Why does it do that? Well, I don't understand how the scrolling in this works. Whatever. I want to, like, highlight the text, but then it just scrolls. Whatever. Okay. Luna. More strength, more int, less agility gain. What this says to me is they're trying to make her a better lane support and not a carry. What that means for her exactly, not entirely sure. I can imagine, like, a Luna 4 position that beams you for the first wave and then cuts your creeps with a Bassi and 330 base movement speed and drags them to behind her tower could be pretty scary. We're going to be on Luna. How many beams does Luna have? Level 1. You have 4 beams, so you could literally just go doink. Oh, this is like on the carry opponent, like, obviously. You could just be in lane, you like hit him like this, you know, the lane's like this. Doink. And then you go cut creeps, and by the time you come back, because you have 330 movement speed, 327, and a Basilius probably. Maybe just a Sage's Mask and a Windlace on 4 position Luna. You got like a lot of base stats. You only hit for 50 damage though. I don't really know what's stopping you from just cutting the creep wave on Luna. Like, you know, how does a carry stop you? If I'm getting stuck playing 4 position, I'm going to try Luna. And go this, like, Basilius beam build where I cut creeps and get level 2. And my aura is to buff my hero. Wait, so allied ranged player units. So I'm just confirming. This just straight up doesn't buff Great Hero Axe. This just straight up doesn't buff allies that are melee. Oh. I don't understand this. Why does it say ranged player units? But then it gives it to melee heroes. He's not getting armor. No, he gets armor. He just didn't have enough armor to benefit from it. He gets armor. So it does buff all units. It's just apparently it's just like not melee creeps.
Yes.
Or range creeps, excuse me. Or no, it's not. Oh, ranged player units. Wait, so if I buy a Necro. No, he gets it too. So it's just, the ranged is just completely fucking random. Like, it just doesn't apply to anything. As melee unit also gets it. Dota, or, you know, can we just post this to Reddit? This is unplayable. Why is the word ranged in there? It just applies to every unit, so... Whatever. I mean, I'm not going Necrobook Luna. I was just testing if it only applied to melee creeps. Or, like, melee summons or whatever. Or it didn't apply to melee summons, but it does. So I'm going to be trying 4-position Luna when I get into my games. I think the play is to go Basilius or Sage's Mask at the very least. Or even just, like, 2 Clarities. Beam the shit out of the carry for the first creep wave. Cut the next wave. Get level 2. Come back. Beam them some more. You hit a power spike at level 3. Your aura is probably pretty much the old Venge. With damage and armor. I mean, the armor is really good, actually. I have to imagine Luna's support skill is pretty scary. You just go aura items. Have, like, decent farming mechanic if you're left alone with your glaives. You go, like, 404, maybe like, 4-1 or 4-2-3 or something, you know, like, in case you have time to farm. I think, especially at lower level... Dude, what is that, dude? I just clicked the screen and it just... Whatever. That seems pretty scary to me. I want to try this. All these buffs hint to her being a support, dude. I don't think she's a carry anymore. Lycan. Feral Impulse, 1 HP regen, literally unkillable if you take 5 minutes to kill him. He's got an extra 300 health. Shapeshift, wow, longer duration. So lower transformation time and longer duration now over the course of the last couple patches. That's drastically longer, to be honest. Magnus, Shockwave, slow duration increased. Okay. This hero needed buffs. He sucked. For whatever reason, Rookie thinks he's good, but this hero was trash, so buff him, please. Don't buff him, please. I don't love this hero, but, you know, he could use some love. Mars made it so his Scepter now works all the time rather than just in Arena, and it's a longer cooldown, but his God's Rebuke goes from 10 to 3.5. Is effectively what this does now. So the slow duration is 2. The cooldown's 3.5. This makes it feel like mid-Mars is more viable. I don't really know if you'll ever have this on offlane Mars. Like on offlane Mars, I think you're more of like an aura builder. Like you have to be. But on mid lane Mars, you could go like Deso Ags. That sounds pretty sick, actually. Like Soul Ring Deso Ags. Like Phase Soul Ring Deso Ags. That could be pretty scary. Medusa. Okay. Not much to say about that. Marana base damage increased by 2. Sacred Arrow damage. This hero was pretty unpickable for a while. Keep an eye out for her. I don't think this is enough, but maybe 1 or 2 patches from now, they're going to keep shadow buffing her again. By the time that TI, if it does actually happen because of coronavirus, yikes, she'll be OP. Nature's Prophet. Backswing Pog. More importantly, longer cooldown on Wrath of Nature. That means this hero's trash. Oh, wait! Now provide you with +4, +5, +6 damage per unit killed for 50 seconds. Very cool. So, realistically, you're killing at least, like, 5 to 10 creeps. So, I'll say minimum of 5. So, for 60% of the game, if you're using this, you're getting 20 damage at level 1. Which is pretty nutty if you put him in a core position. I think this makes support Prophet obviously no better. It makes him worse, actually, as a support. I think people were picking him as support, and Ice Frog was like, God darn tootin'. This hero's really annoying as a support. Nobody likes it in the game, but he was pretty fun as a core, so I think this makes him better as a 2 or a 3, but as a support, it makes him worse. Could he be broken because of this? Honestly, I think so. But is he broken because of this? Honestly, I don't know. Night Stalker, base intelligence increased by 2, health regen by 0.5, movement speed by 5. Nice little stats for Night Stalker. A few more, or an extra void or so, meaning like, you know, over time. Base health regen, you know, adds up. Movement speed adds up. Adds up. All these little buffs. Gonna try out Night Stalker as well. Seems like he was very on the verge of being viable. And I think this just... all these little things are really nice for him. Ogre Magi, whatever. Literally totally killable, or opposite of whatever that meme is. Base health regen, okay. Base damage increased by 2, okay. Phoenix, getting some love. Still hard countered by Snapfire, and she's pretty good still, so whatever. Puck base damage reduced by 2. Dude, Puck has been getting the shaft. Pudge. Base health regen by 1. Pog. Anybody else pogging? Flesh Heap now provides magic resistance instead of health regen. We have reverted Pudge to the old shitty Pudge that he once was. The unpickable Pudge. The even more game-ruining position 4 Pudge that we all know and love. So thank you, Ice Frog. We appreciate you. Pugna. Slightly better. I mean, these buffs to Pugna are pretty massive. Level 1 Nether Ward, much more of a value point for draining mana. People don't even realize how much mana this shit drains. It's a lot if left ignored. And now Life Drain does less damage slightly, but it has a 7-second cooldown instead of 22-second. And now Ags not only removes the cooldown, but also buffs the damage, slightly reduced cast range, but pretty nice quality of life buff for Pugna. Pretty insane, actually. Might be worth trying him as a 3. Queen of Pain, whatever. This is like a little like, hey, Ricky, don't get too OP. Remember, we see you there. I know you're invisible, but we see you. That's like what this is to me. Rubik. Slight nerf to his landing stage. Still pretty good, probably. Sand King. Caustic Finale, longer duration on the slow, and it also reduces attack speed, which is relevant in the laning stage. 15, 20, 25, 30. I mean, just a little bit of attack speed. That's relevant. So yeah, that's cool. Shadow Demon. Damage per pulse and... oh, okay. They also buffed his ultimate a little bit. Okay. Shadow Demon. Demonic Purge. Slightly buffed. Whatever. He did get buffed because Shadow Demon was... so say as Necrophos is a perfect example as a hero that gets countered by Shadow Demon, because not only do you save him from his ult, save your allies from his ult, but you also purge him continuously, and he would buy a Force Staff, and like you can't Ghost Shroud. The only way Necro could play was to Force Staff himself. And now Force Staff is dispellable, and Demonic Purge continuously dispels you. So you can't get Force Staffed anymore, which is a pretty massive buff to Shadow Demon, honestly. The person who's getting gone on, unless they have a way to protect themselves, which Yules can't be used, Glimmer can't be used, Force Staff can't be used. So unless the hero has innate mobility, you're just stuck. Like, you ain't fucking moving for 7 seconds. Silencer. Now reverted this. Not much of a change. Usually people have been leveling Glaives of Wisdom anyways. It only affects like support silencers going Curse level 1 and then getting a kill. Pounce Scepter distance reduced again. I mean, I don't think Scepter was good on Slark last patch, and I think it's just slightly worse now. Snapfire's Scepter ability, definitely one of the derpiest things in the game. It allows you to swallow an allied creep or hero and spit it towards enemies, stunning them in an area. So it basically turns... you have a 40-second cooldown glob, like an individual glob, that is your teammate or a creep, which the cast range being 150 means the creep or teammate that you are devouring. The launch distance is the same as your ultimate. So you can, like, fucking shoot your teammate 2,500 units or whatever and just, you know, give them a free tiny toss, or not a free, like, you know, a long-range tiny toss that also stuns and deals damage. It's like a glob, right? It's a glob that stuns and does damage. So could 3-position Snapfire go like Greaves Ags? Potentially, yes. That is a very reliable way to start a fight with certain heroes. Like, if you have any melee carry that wants to get in but doesn't want to buy an item like that, damn, you just go, you know, shoot him in. I'll show you guys real quick, but I already described it to you exactly what it is. People are saying shoot a Helm of the Dominator or Centaur. I considered that, but there's no way she's buying the Helm of the Dominator, so it would have to be an ally's Helm of the Dominator.
Now let's see what all the fuss.
So if you don't shoot him out, let's find out. So that was the first question. I don't know why he spawned over there, to be honest with you. So if you don't shoot him out... Dude, really? Dude. What happens if you don't shoot him out? Okay, so he just doesn't do anything if you don't shoot him. Okay. Like, he doesn't do literally anything. No stun or anything. But if you shoot him... Yeah! Oh, wait. I have to fucking rehockey this. Let's see. What do I want this to be? Oh, man. I might actually have some Snapfire hockey issues. There's very few heroes in the game that require 6 hockeys. 1 second here.
Should we hurry?
Okay, that's what I'm gonna do. Okay, so yeah, let's show you again here. So you eat them, and yeah! And they stun. Dude, Axe plus Snapfire sounds sick. But it's super far, so we'll show you exactly how far it is. So, we've thought of numerous, you know, applications of this spell. First and foremost, a really cool blink for your teammate to start the fight. That's also a stun and some damage on a 40-second cooldown. And also, if you are losing the game and you're on your own fountain, shoot your teammates into the opponent. GG. They're dead. Nice griefing. If you're winning the game and you're hitting the opponent ancient, take your teammate into the fountain. Easy. Easy reports. You want to know how to get the quickest to low prio? Snapfire with Ags for sure. You heard it here first. Mid or Granny Airlines, guys. Mid or Granny Airlines. Okay. Sniper. Base damage increased by 4. Headshot damage reduced by 10 every level. So, what? Headshot was 40%, right? 40%, and you reduced it by 10 damage. Let's do the math. You reduced 40% proc by 10 damage. 40% of 10, carry the 6. That's 4. So he lost 4 damage average when he levels headshot. But base damage increased by 4. So effectively, with headshot leveled, this hero is the same amount of damage. But without headshot leveled, he's 4 more damage. So this makes it so that you can go like shrapnel plus take aim. And you'll have more damage than you did before. But you'll have the same amount of damage the second you level headshot. So it's also more consistent damage. Meaning if you're last hitting, it's much more consistent rather than randomly doing a bajillion damage or doing 0. It's just more consistent, but it's the same amount of damage on average. Once headshot is leveled and you are wailing on somebody, it is not a buff to his damage. Assassinate Scepter cast time is now way lower, like half, whatever. Base health regen on Spectre Pog. Shadow Step now reduced to 35 seconds. That's her Ag Scepter ability. I was told her Ags beforehand was really bad. I don't know, 35-second cooldown's pretty low, so maybe it's good. Spear Breaker, reworked Scepter, increases Charge of Darkness movement speed by 100 and reduces cooldown to 5. I saw Zai using this and I didn't realize they changed the Ag Scepter. So, Spear Breaker's W is percent base movement speed buff, so that buffs even more so with the 100, as well as when you're charged. And the cooldown of charge prior was 12, I believe. So it goes from 12 to 5. That's a lot of charges. Charge is a stun, effectively. It's also really hard to kill you. So maybe Core Spearbreaker with Axe? At lower levels could be super fun. Whether or not it's actually good, tough question there. Looks like Co-Mafia lost a bet because he has gifted a tier 3 sub. Oh, reduces cooldown by 5, so it goes to 7. Thank you, Co-Mafia, for gifting a tier 3 sub to Old Chili. Why you would gift a tier 3 sub, I don't exactly know, but damn. Thank you very much for that tier 3 gifted sub. He's your twin. You're not even a sub, Co-Mafia, and you gifted him a tier 3. It goes from 11 to 6. I see. Thank you, guys. I thought the CD was 12. It's 11. Storm Spirit has 10 attack speed for free. Very nice. Base movement speed increased by 5 for Sven. He's very fast. Techies. Landmine's movement speed actually tripled Pog. Discount ulti, Pango ulti, BKB piercing. I would not compare it to Pangolier ulti at all. But it is fascinating if it's actually viable. But the thing is, it's also a farming mechanic to charge creep waves. Like, if you're a core Spirit Breaker, just charging the creep wave isn't so bad anymore because the cooldown's 6 seconds instead of 11. So when you come out of charge, the time to kill you is, like, way less. Dude, Co-Mafia, man, I don't understand. But thank you very much for the tier 3 sub. For the record, that is a $25 sub that supports me 6 times as much as a normal sub. So that's pretty crazy, man. I don't get tier 3 subs very often, but thank you very much for the 2 tier 3 subs, dude. That's really high support from you, or a lot of support from you, and I really do appreciate it. That's just unexpected. Templar Assassin now has her Scepter ability, has a cast time, which is reduced in half. Terrorblade. Tier 3 costs $25 and supports the streamer 6 times as much. So it's effectively like a bonus sub on top of the money they're paying. Metamorphosis Scepter is now a standalone ability. So instead of like using the fear when you meta,
anyone here know what a dead
once you
is?
are meta, you
Feels
can
okay,
then choose to use the fear. So the cooldown is longer than the duration of meta, so you effectively get 1 fear per meta usage. But instead of having to use it at the same time, they've separated, which makes it way better, but probably just still an Ags upgrade. Or like a Roche Ags, I mean. I would have to imagine. Super niche late game item. All of his talents got slightly buffed. I don't know if it's enough. His laning stage is still pretty dog. But his late game is way better. In terms of, not way better. His mid to late game is just slightly better. He's going to have like more movement speed, a little more health, or I think the attack speed's even worth considering. I don't think the hero's good, but he might be. Base strength on Untitled, also including damage, increased by 3. He only has like 50-something base, like 51 base damage, I think. It's like 54 now? Yeah, it's 53 now, so that's actually relevant. He's one of the lowest base damages of any strength hero, so that's pretty relevant for Tidehunter. Might try Tidehunter as well. We'll see. Tinker, cast range at level 10, March of the Machine duration to 3 seconds. Wow. That's a lot of cast range at level 10, man. Holy crap. Dude, how? I just clicked the 150, and it just took me to... Jesus Christ. Good quality YouTube content going on right now. I clicked it again. Why is it not just scrolling me all the way to the top? DNAB123, thank you for the 18 months. And Scarman, thank you for the 2 months. Attack backswing on Tiny reduced. Once again, same thing as earlier. Nature's Guise regen amplification actually buffed on Tree. Hero is definitely not seeing any play. Tusk movement speed increased by 5. This hero's pretty fast now. He's like 318 or 320 or some shit. He's pretty fast. For a roamer that has like a spell that relies on hitting you.
Little bit of that.
And being close, that's really good. Like a relevant movement speed buff. Ice Shard's damage slightly buffed as well. Tusk is going to be back in the meta, if not already, honestly. DNAP, thank you for 100 bits. Undying Tombstone Zombies now do 10 more damage against Stout Shield or like damage block on melee heroes that basically negates it, so that's a lot of damage. Honestly. Ursa Fury Swipes. Drastically... Okay, so here Ursa got one of the most significant reworks of the patch. Drastic increase in Fury Swipes damage. 50% increase, approximately. Overpower now has 1 less attack, but it has a lower cooldown at max level. 7 seconds.
Shouldn't
compared
do
to 10.
this cuss Corona, but I wanna be part of the scam train.
Thanks for the 39 months, Gretchy. So Overpower went from 10 seconds to 7 at max level. So we're all talking about your mid to late game here. And Overpower mana cost in the laning stage reduced drastically at level 1. Like you can use now 4 of them for the price of 3. And still slightly lower at max level, but more so notably at early levels. So his laning stage is more powerful because he has 50% more damage on Fury Swipes. and he has a much lower cooldown on Overpower. Or, sorry, much lower mana cost on Overpower. And then his mid to late game is almost the same, despite the fact that they removed an Overpower attack count because they made the cooldown 7 seconds instead of 10. So you can use more Overpowers. And Enrage no longer gives damage. Enrage only goes up in duration, down in cooldown. And it also grants status resistance.
Trifurion with Seed. The damage stacks
I didn't even
indefinitely.
Dude, I didn't even see this, honestly. I did not see this when I initially read the patch. 50% status resistance? Okay, Ursa's like way overtuned. Holy crap. So it no longer gives damage. Let's be clear here. So when it comes to level 1 ulti, which was 1.4 multiplier, you now effectively have your old level 1 ulti damage all the time.
Patchpog.
Like literally all the time. And you are slightly nerfed in terms of your like second and third level of ultimate, but you get the damage all the time. I saw Matu go Tread, Sanj, and Yasha Satanic on Ursa. You don't really need a blink because you have your Q, which is still mobility. And now that Overpower doesn't cost nearly as much mana in the laning stage, I think the level 10 mana talent is like kind of enough. And the treads are really nice for farming. He actually, like, because your Fury Swipes are buffed so much outside of your ultimate, you can actually farm pretty well for the early game, considering, like, comparing him to most other carries. And because, like, items like Maelstrom and stuff got nerfed, heroes that don't rely on Maelstrom got buffed. All these things combined, I think Ursa is broken as all hell, and I think he's going to be nerfed in the next week or two. I think this hero is busted. I saw Matu play Ursa in, like, a dog shit Ursa game. Like, it was a really bad Ursa game, and he owned. So I think this hero is quite scary. 50% status resistance on his ultimate is nutty. His ultimate's purely defensive now, purely manning up on people. So it's a much easier quality of life usage on Enrage. Prior, you had to decide whether or not you were going to use it for damage or you were going to use it for defense purposes. But now it has one distinct purpose, and you use it for that. So much easier to use Enrage. Overpower, I think, overall is about the same. Slightly better early on. And Fury Swipes is way better. So this hero is... Matu described it very well when I watched his stream. They have a really good habit of taking Ursa, buffing him into oblivion, making him one of the most broken heroes in the entire game, and then realizing they did that, and then nerfing the fuck out of him within like a week or two. So, pretty sure we're going to be following that cycle. And we're going to be reaching that point, I believe. Thanks for the hype train, everybody. I do appreciate it. And now at level 25, in terms of hyper late game scaling, you'd think he did lose that one overpower attack, BSJ, which, because of Fury Swipes compounding, it is a lot of damage to lose. Actually, we gave him 3 overpower attacks at level 25. So in the hyper late game, he's actually scarier than he was prior, which is nutty. I think the builds I would consider are Treads, Sanj, and Yasha, plus like either Basher or Satanic, or like Phase Boots, Mask of Madness, Deso. Like, I think that's also worth considering as well. Depending on the game, depending on how farmed you are and all that kind of stuff. I think Mask of Madness could be scary as all hell because of the innate buff to Fury Swipes. So, like, it's also like a farming item. Dude, I think this hero is scary as all balls, man. Holy shit. Like, as an offlane player primarily now, Ursa scares the shit out of me. If I get to play carry, I'm going to definitely try Ursa. Vengeful Spirit, Magic's cast range, whatever. Okay. Slightly buffed. Viper Strike damage increased, whatever. Mainly level 1 isn't noticeable. Spell Lifesteal, whatever. Whenever I say whatever, guys, I mean, like, yeah, it's a slight buff. It makes the hero slightly better, but I don't think it changes much. Visage, base attack speed by 10. Yeah, okay. Slightly better landing stage, I guess. Later on in the game, he doesn't really attack very much. Soul Assumption, collection radius increased. Okay. Soul Assumption cast range increased. Okay. Gravekeeper close stacks. Holy shit, that's a lot of stacks. This wasn't very good, I don't think, but that's a lot of stacks. Holy moly. 4-second refresh duration, I believe, on Gravekeepers. Yeah, that's scary. I don't know. Is Visage really a major late gamer, though? Not really. Void Spirit. Added Scepter, so that Resonant Pulse now has 2 charges, and it silences for 2 seconds. Seems like a decent item to go early. This item's either going to be incredibly viable, pretty much the main build where you go at second item after like Yule Scepter or something, or it's just going to be dog shit. That's like the 2 options. I'm not 100% sure which one it is. Gives you more damage, gives you more protection with your shield. I believe they stack if you use them on top of each other. And obviously it's an AoE silence. So, in my opinion, it replaces Orchid. They also nerfed Crystallis, so like the right-click build on this hero seems kind of way worse. I think they are favoring going back to this like spellcasting Void Spirit where you go like potentially Kaya Yasha with Ags or something. You know, I'm not saying you go Kaya Yasha, but I'm just saying stuff that buffs up your spell damage rather than your right-click damage. Somebody told me they stacked, but maybe I'm wrong. Warlock. Cast point improved, whatever. Okay. So what? Just be clear, every time I say whatever, like the abilities got buffed, but it doesn't change too much. Just little things that make them better. Weaver, base intelligence by 3. That is very relevant. Very low mana pool, and he relies on the mana pool. Intelligence gain, okay. Base mana regen, okay. So every 60 seconds, you have 0.35 mana regen. So you're sitting on an extra 20 mana every minute. That is completely relevant on a Weaver because you spam Sakuchi in the laning stage. You spam it to farm. So every minute of the game will give you an extra 20 mana. So in terms of like that critical threshold of running out of mana on a hero like this, you are getting closer and closer to reaching it. On top of the fact that Sakuchi, instead of giving 225 movement speed, gives a negligible less difference at level 1, meaning it's 220, and it goes up to 280. So reminder, that is 55 movement speed that is buffed by all movement speed giving items, auras, etc. So treads, like boots giving 15% is another 8 movement speed. You know, not Sanjin Yasha. I guess like if your team has drums, I guess it's mainly boots. It's effectively an extra 65 movement speed on Sakuchi. That's for chasing people in fights. That's for moving around the map and farming. That is a lot, and this is like a 66% uptime ability. That's a lot of movement speed to give. So that is pretty drastic. Windranger. Intelligence gain, cool. Cold Embrace is now considered a heal. The only thing I can think of this mattering against is Venomancer Poison Sting, as well as Necrophos Ags. That's the only thing I can think of. Witch Doctor, Paralyzing Cask in the laning stage, much lower mana cost. Death Ward no longer has bounce limit. 3-position Witch Doctor confirmed counter to PL, and then PL's going to bash you, and you don't do anything. So, don't really know how much this changes. Maybe he's better against like Meepo, but I don't think this changes really anything about the hero. Wraith King, slightly less lifesteal on his aura, but the damage and lifesteal on your hero give an extra 50%. So you got an extra 6% lifesteal on Wraith King, and you got an extra 12 damage. It's actually 9 damage at level 1, as opposed to 6. That's a lot. 9 damage? Do you actually just go this shit level 1? 9 damage? 71 damage? Is that worth considering? Is your stun too good? 9 damage is a lot, man. 9 is a lot. Matu did go level 1 Vampiric Aura. W plus 5 branches. It's even more insane with the lifesteal talent. Oh my god. So you have 45%, you have 67% lifesteal. Dude, can they just make it so you have, can they just really make this 26 at level 25, guys? If they make Vampiric Aura lifesteal 26% bonus at level 25, you will go to 46 plus 50%, which is 23. You will have 69% lifesteal. Please petition Valve to make this 26%. Please. Thank you. Nice. Let's see. And Zeus. 5 movement speed, and attack point. So his landing stage buffed a bit. So that's going to wrap up my overall reviewing of the patch.